Have you ever noticed a question on the SSAT asking what the author's primary goal in the passage is, or maybe why they included a particular paragraph? Then you've seen a question about author's purpose. Today we're going to talk through what are author's purpose questions and what strategies can you use to help you get them right. So first, let's start off with a definition. Author's purpose is the author's reason for writing a text. What is the point of the text that they have written? When you're answering questions about author's purpose, it's helpful to keep three basic reasons an author might write a text in mind. The first reason an author might write a text would be to persuade their readers. So if an author is persuading, they have some sort of opinion that they want you to agree with. They might be giving you facts and information, but it's ultimately to convince you that their opinion is true. A great example of this might be an editorial in a newspaper where someone writes in with an opinion that they want readers to believe. The second basic purpose would be to inform. So if an author's purpose is to inform, they just want to give you facts and information about something. They don't necessarily have an opinion that they want you to believe. A great example of an informing piece would be an entry in an encyclopedia. Now, finally, the last purpose an author might have would be to entertain. So this is where the author just wants you to enjoy what they have written. And a great example of this might be a comic book or a novel, and these texts with these purposes might not appear super often on the SSAT, though I know we all wish they were definitely more common. So let's talk about how to use these three basic purposes when you encounter a passage on the SSAT. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to read the passage. And then second, you're going to want to identify the main idea. You might notice that this overlaps with strategies for other question types, which is on purpose. It's so foundational to answering so many different types of questions on a passage. Once you've identified the main idea, you're also going to want to identify the purpose. So again, think about, is the passage persuading, informing, or entertaining? If you need an easy way to remember those three purposes, note that they spell out the acronym PI. And then fourth, after you've done that, you're going to match your answers, what did you say for your purpose and what did you say for your main idea, combine them and see which answer choice matches best. All right, so let's try this out in the context of a passage. As we said before, our first step is to read the passage. So you can go ahead, pause the video, and do that now. All right, so you should have read the passage. Now, our second step is to identify the main idea. So if we use our topic plus so what formula, what would your main idea be? For me, I would definitely say the topic is terraforming Mars. And I think the so what would definitely be to preserve as much as possible, right? The author mentions that multiple times in that exact wording, preserve as much as possible and preserve as much as possible. So that leads us into what is our purpose, which for me, that is really clearly persuading, right? The author tells us we need to preserve. So I would definitely say that this is persuading. Now, one important note before we go on to our fourth step of matching our main idea and our purpose to the answer choices is to note that the SSAT probably is not going to use the exact word persuade in the answer choice. They're going to use synonyms to that word. So we just have to watch and make sure, is the word that we're choosing or is the answer choice that we're choosing including a good synonym for persuade, inform, or whatever other purpose that we've decided the passage has. So let's take a look at our question and answer choices here. So the main purpose of this passage is to, A, caution against irreparable modification to Mars's environment. Well, first of all, caution is a good sign because to me that's a persuading word that means we're persuading against something, which is definitely what's happening here. Then against irreparable modifications, well, irreparable modifications in this case, I think could be a good synonym for terraforming. That's kind of what the author seems to imply that terraforming is doing. So I'm going to leave that option. That seems like a good one. Going on down to B, defend NASA's policies on terraforming and colonization. Well, first of all, the word defend is a little bit of a red flag because I don't see the author defending anything. And it's also definitely not talking about NASA's policies, right? This is much more hypothetical than that. He's not talking about anything official. So I'm going to eliminate B. Going on to answer C, delineate the process of establishing a habitable colony on Mars. Well, first red flag for me on this one is also the word delineate, which means to explain something in order. Typically, it's not going to be persuading. We also definitely are not focusing on the process of establishing a colony. It's much more so about whether we should or not. So I'm going to eliminate that option. D, question current enthusiasm for colonizing Mars. Well, first good sign, I think, is the word question, which to me is trying to persuade people to have hesitations about something. Then current enthusiasm for colonizing Mars. We definitely get the colonizing Mars part of the main idea here, so that seems positive, but I have questions about this current enthusiasm part, right? The author seems to much more be talking about, like, is it ethical and should we colonize? Not necessarily saying, should we be enthusiastic about it? So I think if I'm comparing that to answer A seems to be a bit more likely. All right, so then let's check out answer E, dispel misconceptions about whether permanent habitats are feasible in space. The word dispel, again, like to get rid of wrong information. That seems possible, maybe. But I don't know that we're dispelling misconceptions about whether permanent habitats are feasible, right? It's not just are they possible, it's should we do them? So given that, I think we can eliminate E, and I think our best answer choice is A. All right, so before we go, let's review that strategy one more time. First step when you're answering an author's purpose question is to read the passage. Then you want to identify the main idea. You can use the formula topic plus so what in order to make that easier. Then you are going to want to identify the purpose, right? Is it to persuade, inform, or entertain? And then fourth, you're going to match your main idea and purpose to the best answer choice. You should now be prepared to answer any author's purpose question you see on the SSAT.